Have you ever wondered what shapes the tragic fate of a queen? How her name becomes a turning point in history? Catherine of Aragon stands at the very start of England's painful split from the Catholic Church, marking the beginning of countless personal and national tragedies. But behind these pages of history lies a question few dare to ask. Was Catherine the product of royal inbreeding, born from bloodlines that mixed and twisted within palaces of power? Before we rush to answer, let's remember, in an age when the throne meant everything, royal marriages were never just about love. They were grand strategies, carefully planned by kings and queens for the future of entire nations. The royal bloodline was seen as both a shield and a chain, binding generations to a destiny they could not escape. Catherine is no stranger to those who love European history. But what many people don't realize is that her fate was decided long before her birth. As the youngest daughter of King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella I, rulers famous for uniting Spain, her life was shaped by decisions made for power, not for love. Her parents, determined to keep the royal blood strong, defied religious and ecclesiastical and social rules to marry, even though they were second cousins. From the very beginning, Catherine's story pulls us into a whirlwind of power, tradition, and unanswered questions. Is royal blood truly a shield, or is it the root of tragedy itself? Stay with me until the end of this video to discover the answer to this mysterious question. To truly understand Catherine of Aragon's life, we have to step back into the world of late 15th and early 16th century Europe. This was an age of kings, queens, and empires, always at war or forming uneasy alliances. Royal families ruled over countries that were often divided by religion, language, and constant threats from both inside and outside their borders. The safest way to protect a throne wasn't just with swords and soldiers, was with marriage. Imagine a world where a royal wedding could mean peace between two powerful kingdoms, or even decide the fate of an entire continent. In this world, love came second. Bloodlines, inheritance, and family ties were everything. Parents chose husbands and wives for their children based on political strategy, not happiness. The main goal was to keep power in the family and to ensure that pure royal blood would be passed on to the next generation. This belief in royal blood was so strong that marriages between close relatives, like cousins or even uncles and nieces, were not only accepted, but sometimes encouraged. Kings and queens believed that this kept their power strong and their rivals weak. However, these traditions came with a hidden cost. Over generations, the same royal families married each other again and again, causing genetic problems and illnesses to appear. It was in this world that Catherine was born, a world where who you married could start wars or end them, and where a single drop of impure blood was seen as a threat to an entire dynasty. The customs and beliefs of this time shaped everything about Catherine's future, from her childhood to her greatest struggles as Queen of England. By placing ourselves in this world of political games and tangled family trees, we can begin to see why the question of Catherine's bloodline is so important, and why her story continues to fascinate us even today. Catherine's life began at the crossroads of two great kingdoms. Born in 1485 in Spain, she was the youngest child of King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile. Their marriage was not just a romantic union, it was a brilliant political move that united much of Spain and turned the country into a rising power in Europe. But their union also broke boundaries, as Ferdinand and Isabella were second cousins. The church had strict rules against marriages between close relatives. But for the sake of politics, the couple received special permission from the Pope. This meant that from her very first breath, Catherine carried the weight of not only royal ambition, but also a controversial family legacy. She grew up in the palaces of Spain, surrounded by luxury and taught by some of the best minds of her time. Catherine learned languages, history, philosophy, and religion, But she also learned the importance of duty over desire. From a young age, she was told that her future was not her own. She was destined to marry into another royal family and help. Her parents strengthened their hold on power across Europe. As a teenager, Catherine was sent to England to marry Arthur, the Prince of Wales and heir to the English throne. This marriage was another political alliance designed to keep England and Spain as friends rather than rivals. But tragedy struck soon after the wedding. Arthur died, leaving Catherine alone in a foreign land. Her life shaped by the expectations and strategies of her parents became uncertain and isolated. Yet Catherine's story was only beginning. The choices made by her ancestors and the close ties within her family tree would soon play a dramatic role in the chapters of her life still to come. The tradition of marrying within royal families was not unique to Catherine's parents. Across Europe for hundreds of years, kings and queens arranged marriages with their cousins, uncles, aunts, and even siblings. Their goal was to keep the crown secure and land undivided, believing that only royal blood was worthy of ruling. But this tradition came at a cost, and history is full of dramatic and tragic examples. One of the most famous cases was the Habsburg family of Spain and Austria. For generations, the Habsburgs married so closely that by the time Charles II of Spain was born, his family tree was more like a tangled knot. Charles was weak, sickly, and unable to have children, a direct result of too many generations of inbreeding. Even outside Spain, other royal families faced similar problems. Queen Victoria of England married her cousin Albert, and their descendants passed down a serious blood disorder called hemophilia to many European royal houses. Catherine's own bloodline was not immune to these risks. With parents who were second cousins, her genes carried a higher chance of hidden problems that could appear in her children or grandchildren. In those days, few understood the science of genetics, but the dangers of inbreeding were whispered about in courts and palaces. Still, the desire to protect royal power was stronger than fear. The world Catherine lived in was built on centuries of such marriages, where love was secondary and bloodline was everything. The pressure on her and on every royal child was enormous. In this world, the question of who your parents were was never just a family matter. It was the fate of nations. Catherine's journey in England was never easy. After the death of her first husband, Arthur, she spent years in uncertainty, neither fully welcomed nor truly rejected by the English court. Eventually, she married Henry VIII, Arthur's younger brother. This marriage, too, needed special permission from the Pope because of the close family ties. For a time, Catherine was loved as Queen of England. She was intelligent, gentle, and deeply religious, respected by the people and trusted by the king. But beneath the surface, trouble was growing. Catherine struggled to provide Henry with a son, the one thing he wanted most. She suffered several miscarriages, and only one daughter, Mary, survived. In a world where a queen's greatest duty was to produce a male heir, this became a source of endless pain and frustration for both Catherine and Henry. The pressure was immense, not just from Henry, but from the entire kingdom. Whispers about bad blood and the consequences of royal inbreeding followed her everywhere. As years passed and hope faded, Henry's patience wore thin. He became convinced that his marriage to Catherine was cursed, blaming their family connection and her failure to produce a son. Desperate for an heir, he sought to have their marriage annulled, hoping to wed Anne Boleyn and try again for a son. Catherine refused to step aside, fighting for her marriage, her daughter, and her honor. The drama captured the attention of Europe and became one of the greatest scandals of the century. Through this storm, Catherine stood strong. But the forces against her were overwhelming: a king's ambition, a nation's fear, and perhaps the silent weight of generations of royal tradition and inbreeding pressing on her fate. Catherine's battle to keep her crown did not just shape her own destiny. It changed the history of England forever. When Henry could not get what he wanted from the Pope, he broke away from the Catholic Church and created the Church of England. This one decision tore England away from centuries of religious tradition and started a conflict that would last for generations. At the center of this storm stood Catherine, a queen who refused to yield. Even as everything she knew was torn apart, in the end, Catherine lost her title, her marriage, and much of her freedom. She was separated from her daughter Mary and sent to live out her final years in isolation. Yet even in disgrace, she never stopped believing in her own dignity. She wrote letters full of love, faith, and strength, showing a quiet resilience that won the respect of many, both in her own time and long after. Her suffering became a symbol of the cost of royal ambition and the price paid by those trapped in the chains of tradition. The legacy of Catherine's life is still debated by historians. Some see her as a victim of a ruthless king and a cruel system. Others remember her for her courage and faith. But one thing is clear: the choices made by those before her, the marriages, the family ties, the insistence on pure blood played a huge part in shaping her fate and the fate of England itself. So, was Catherine of Aragon truly the product of inbreeding? If we look at her family tree, the answer seems clear. Her parents were second cousins, joining their bloodlines in a way that the church normally forbade. For centuries, royal families made such choices in the name of power and security, not realizing the risks to their children and future generations. Catherine's life was shaped by these traditions, her triumphs and tragedies alike. But the bigger question is not just about genes or ancestry. Catherine was not only shaped by biology, but also by the ambitions, fears, and hopes of her family and her era. She was caught in the struggle between love and duty, personal desire and public expectation, fate, and choice. Her story asks us to consider how much of our lives are decided by forces beyond our control, by history, by family, by tradition. As we look back, Catherine's life becomes more than just a chapter in a history book. It's a reminder of the dangers of blind tradition and the strength of those who dare to stand firm against overwhelming odds. So, what do you think? Was Catherine simply the product of royal inbreeding? Or was she a victim of much deeper forces: politics, pride, and the age-old hunger for power? Share your thoughts below. Every opinion is a new piece in the puzzle, helping us all to better understand history's mysteries.